Alright, what's happening YouTube? My name is Job Celery, and in this video I'm going to be reviewing my all-in-all Menawi build for an extreme difficulty run in the game GreedFall. Now, in this video I'm going to review the gear that my Desarde has equipped, the skills, attributes, as well as the talent points that I have allocated for this specific build. So let's just go ahead and begin. So we'll start with the equipment. I'll start at the top. I am wearing the Warrior King outfit, which doesn't require any endurance in order for you to wear. It also comes with the crane mask of the Bird King. So really this build just focuses more so on like role play, and as well as like it's just a challenging experience. Essentially what my idea was for this build is that I'm going to try to emulate that of an all-in-all Menawi native on their way to transforming into a mountain guardian. So for this build, you know, you're going to see the different stats, skills that I have, as well as the attribute points. Is going to allow us to have a strong melee attack type of build with some magic, just as defense and kind of setup moves. So all right, without further ado, let's jump right back into it. Okay, so for the neck, I'm using the Medal of St. Matthias. I believe you can kind of get this somewhat early in the game. It only requires a willpower of 2 to use. I use this that way it not only gives me elemental, magical, and poison resistance increased, but I also get 15 health points per second regen. So that's just good for survivability. Excuse me. Now, on my back, I'm not wearing a cape. I mean, you can definitely do that. It'll give you a little bit of armor, a little bit of balance, as well as it'll give you the +1 charisma attribute, talent. I just chose not to do that just for this build, more for like I said, role-playing kind of sake. So, the Warrior King outfit for the chest, the gloves, and then the pants. For my 2 melee weapons, I am using two-handed swords that both require, I believe, an agility of 5. Yep, both require agility of 5. So my primary is the Forgotten Grand Saber of Al-Sad, and then my backup is just High King Vinbar's sword. The only real difference, you know, obviously you see like slightly more physical damage for my primary versus my secondary, you know, and it increases the fury generation with each wing by 2% extra compared to my secondary. So that's honestly why I just chose to go with this one as my primary. So, okay, let's just jump right into the skills. Now, I started off in order to go ahead and make this build as a warrior archetype. In all honesty, I decided to go ahead and do this just because no matter what I chose, like archetype wise, as a starting class, I'm gonna have at least go and have one skill that I'm not going to utilize. So I just decided to go ahead with warrior. You know, you could potentially be a mage and just forego one of your magic skills, but you know, I'll just continue with my walk through the build. So as a warrior, you start off with one-handed blades, one-handed heavy weapons, in addition to firearms. Now, this, as you saw in my 2 primary weapons, this is really just my primary and only real attack. It's just with two-handed blades. I maxed out the single-handed blades tree, and then got this 2-handed blades and maxed that out. I didn't actually go for the ultimate ability like Fury, just because I feel like I'm not going to be able to actually make good use of this, and you'll see why once we actually see this in action. So, alright, I did pick up roll just because any kind of melee build, I feel like you're going to need some good evasive options, as well as like maxed out the tree, just because it increases the fury generation by all attacks. Your counterattacks gain more fury, you deal more damage from behind, and gain more fury generation from attacks from behind. So it's always good stuff to have. Okay, so this is one of the skills that I was kind of talking about, depending on the archetype that you decide to go with. A skill that's unused. I do not use any kind of firearm in this, you know. Obviously with the role play that I wanted to do and have some kind of challenge, I feel like firearms are obviously pretty OP. I had the technician video out which showcased that. Just they hit for extreme amounts of damage, and I just feel like standing back from afar and just shooting, that just, you know, gets pretty boring after a while. But I had to max this out, not only you know, just in case I could pick up roll, but also because I wanted to pick up anointed weapons. And I feel like this one is pretty good, you know, because you see Siora in your party, or any of the other natives that you run into when you're on your adventures out in the island of Teer Fradee. They have elemental coating on their weapons, so I feel like that's definitely going to be a staple of this build. I only ended up picking up the 3 because I feel like I don't know. I don't really feel like the stun is really going to do anything else for me in this anointed weapons tree. So, but for the most part, I do end up using elemental and magic anointed weapons for my rotation. So now for one-handed heavy weapons, you could, instead of doing two-handed blades, you could do two-handed heavy weapons. That's really up to you. Just depends on your play style. I just chose two-handed long blades just because I feel like their attacks are faster. It just seemed to I don't know, just seemed to be a better preference of mine. I just feel like the more heavy armor you would wear, like high endurance, high strength, you could really just be a tank kind of build. I don't feel like two-handed long blades is really going to fit that kind of play style. So that's just my own preference, but whatever blows your skirt up, whatever you want. Okay, so the only 2 magic abilities that you see that on your screen that I ended up choosing was Stasis. Now, as you saw in the mage video that I had, so when you max out this tree, enemies that are in stasis are going to end up taking 50% more damage. So this is really our perfect setup move, so we can almost demolish an enemy in one hit, depending on the buff, the coating that we have on our weapon, as well as if we're going to use a fury attack. And then the second one, just for survivability purposes, I chose healing. Now, I only picked up the 3 points out of this tree. I didn't pick up the last. Healing also affects your allies for half the effects. I don't feel like that's necessary, and I just, at the end of the day, I don't really care if I'm saving them. It's more so just about me. Kind of sounds really selfish, but, that's kind of what you have to do, especially in this game, since you can't directly control your allies in combat. So, all right, in terms of attributes, I maxed out both the strength and the agility trees, as you can see, and I ended up putting some points into willpower. Now, like I said in another video, that I believe I have more attribute points than normal in a first run, just because I was pretty thorough in a lot of my questing. I believe I actually completed all the quests, found a ton of the skill altars, and just tried to make sure I got every experience out of the game. So you may not have as many points as this, and that's okay. I just decided to completely forego endurance because I wanted to rock out the native gear, and the best native gear that I could find was the Warrior King, which does not have a endurance requirement, so I didn't actually have to put any points into this. And it just makes the game challenging, especially because you don't have at least 500 extra health points at max. So choose strength just because it increases the stun that I'll have and ultimately increases my armor damage by an extra 50%. And then agility, for any kind of melee build, it increases your physical damage and increases the fury generation generated off of an attack. So 50 more percentage points here, and 5% more fury generation is definitely good. It's going to help our rotation stay pretty strong. Now, I decided to go for willpower over mental power just because I wanted to have a large mana pool. And as you saw, the 2 abilities that I have, they're not damage dealing magic abilities, they're both support. So I wanted to be able to have a higher mana pool rather than pumping points into mental power, not only for the high mana pool, but also this allows me to equip that necklace that I had, which gave me healing over time in addition to the different elemental, poison, and magic resistance, which is good. You just don't know what you're going to experience out on your journey. For talents, it's just a consistent theme. I always end up picking up science just because I feel like crafting is definitely the way to go, and our build will focus on using the alchemical preparations to buff our weapons, in addition to making those really powerful potions. Not only healing, magic, as well as like a fury potion, just so we can pump out more damage and stay alive. So the only other point I guess I would recommend you picking up if you're going to do this type of build would be like vigor, just because it's going to allow you to recover your health points and mana outside of combat. Now that's very important, just so that way you don't have to use any kind of potions, any kind of healing abilities that you might have. It's just for convenience, I guess. Yeah, so that's really only rationale that I have behind that. So, Alright, we are going to, like we did in the other videos, we're actually going to go ahead and complete 2 challenges within the coin arena. So as you see, like I did in the other videos, I am on extreme, just so you know I'm not pulling your leg. And my current companions, I believe I still just have Afra and Kurt. Kurt just because he's a good tank. Always good to have an Afra. She just does some ranged AoE kind of damage, which is pretty helpful. I decided to not actually bring Siora with me just for healing, because I feel, especially in these type of encounters where the enemies are very difficult, and they're going to swarm quickly, that she's just not even going to be able to pull off any kind of heal. So I'd rather have some more damage output on my side for this type of encounter.
Ready to excite the crowd.
Alright, so let's do the 5th challenge. We'll do round 2. We'll do the large group of enemies first. Let's pause first. Alright, I do not have a full Fury meter, and there are 6 enemies down there. So tell you what, let's go ahead. We'll pop the Fury Potion. We will buff our weapon down, which should be the magical damage that I have as shortcut. Oh no, I can't hop down. Oh shit. Alright, and then let's just go ahead and start swinging. Start taking out enemies. Whoop, got hit. Now, the only difference, obviously, you saw in my other videos, they were pretty decent AoE kind of stuff, so you gotta just be smart about just spacing and how you counterattack enemies, because you'll do more damage with the other type of abilities that you saw me have on. I'm not being too smart here. I'm getting hit. Ah! Heal. And let's put Fury attack. There you go. So, you know, unlike the mage, which has AoE abilities, the actual Fury attack with a 2-handed weapon, it does have a large AoE kind of radius that you could see. I actually struck, I think, maximum maybe 3 enemies at once. So you really got to take your time, especially being a melee build, just because I feel you just don't have enough if you're going to be like a pure melee kind of build where that's where your damage comes from, to actually have like AoE attacks beyond like doing those fury abilities with your 2-handed weapon. So, alright, while I was blabbing away, you saw that we took care of that large group. Unfortunately, Kurt and Afra did die, but we were able to stay alive. So let's go ahead and we'll test out the 5th challenge, round 3. We're actually going to go against one of the Guardians. One of the Guardians that this build is supposed to emulate. So, alright, we'll do elemental damage this time. We do have full Fury meter, so let me go ahead and just start stasis. I'll take more damage. Big hit, so what happens. Ooh, jeez. Got off my game. Just keep popping potions. We'll put on magic damage. And now, because we popped that Fury potion, we should be able just to. We could have just kept doing our Fury attacks, but I feel like we kept getting targeted. So we weren't actually able to pull off as many Fury attacks as possible. But that's okay. We still can make up for it. Right now, he doesn't have any armor. We are doing a decent amount. Our allies are still alive, which is always good. 2,000 damage. That's a decent amount. Let's pause it again. Now this is kind of where you just get spam heavy. And there we go.
Ready to excite the crowd.
Okay, so as you can see, this build really is just more so for fun kind of sakes. I honestly just thought this when I was driving home from work, thinking of like a different kind of build that would just be fun, maybe to help some of you with like roleplay kind of stuff. I don't know. I just always like to get super immersed into a game I'm playing. Just so I enjoy it a little bit more, you know. So in case you have any questions or you think of another build, feel free to comment, send me a message. I'm more than happy just to entertain any of that kind of stuff. And like I said in the other videos, I just want to make sure I can try to help others playing this kind of game. So, alright, thanks friends. I really appreciate you watching. Again, my name is Chop Celery, and I will see you in another video. Alright, bye-bye. Take care.